Welcome back to the program. There's a reason that I call the majority of the people that quote unquote report the news, I call them prostitutes. Because they're all liars and they're whores. And they will say and do whatever they need to for the people that are paying them, funding them, or kissing their ass. Okay? And we know that there is a propaganda machine. That's what it is in this country. It is the enemy of the state. And it is 90% of the entire media apparatus. Now, I think it's wonderful that Jimmy Kimmel was canceled tonight. I think that's excellent news. No need to even talk about it. It's all over the place. But as someone who has been doing this for close to 14 years, I've been able to build a reputation on telling the truth. Through everything I've been through all the attacks, through the website, through being banned from every single social media platform. I don't need to reiterate and go through everything. Everybody knows my history. You're still here. Why? Why are you still here watching me every single day? Because of consistency, because of honesty, and because of ethics and telling the truth. Now, we all know that there's one thing that I never do. I don't do it ever, and I never will. And some people don't like that because some people are always looking for some other angle, even if that angle doesn't exist. I can't tell you how many videos have been sent to me in the last few days showing different angles. He had a gun under his armpit. This one's giving hand signals. This one's doing this. Now, as someone who is a member of the media, there is something that I rarely ever have to do. And I'm going to do it right now. Quite frankly, I can't remember the last time I've even had to. It's been that long ago. But here it is. I publicly stated that I believed that there were indeed hand signals. It looked like someone pulling down their hat, rubbing their nose, scratching their arm, like an umpire getting ready to throw a pitch. That was about as far as I would go because I could see it with my eyes. But all the other things that were sent to me, from these secret little cell phone guns, to armpit cannons, to it's impossible to have been hit from this angle because he was in the tent, and all this other stuff. It is all bullshit. And guess what? I was wrong. What was I wrong about? I was wrong about the hand signals. There were no hand signals, and I will go on record to say that. So the one thing that I said could possibly have been the truth is now no longer the truth. This kid shot him point blank from 200 yards away. He was the only shooter, and I'm going to prove it to you very, very soon. Not in this video, but in the next one. Because you're going to listen to the man in the white hat that I will admit thought was doing hand signals. He is a very close family friend to Charlie Kirk, and he is a Christian author by the name of Frank Turek. So in all the videos standing next to Charlie, the guy in the white hat is actually a close family friend who considers Charlie his fourth son. Now, before we get into that, which is going to be in the other video, which will debunk 100%, all of it. This guy was in the ambulance, not the ambulance, the SUV, it was never an ambulance, in the SUV with Charlie. This is a first-hand account of what happened to Charlie Every single moment from the time the event started to when he was shot to what happened in the SUV on the way over, all the way to the hospital, to the doctors. I have it all. And I'm going to give it to you all in the next segment. However, let's talk about one other thing, okay? President Trump has today designated Antifa, whatever you want to call it, Antifa, a terrorist organization. Thank God. Should have done it years ago. Should have done it in the first term, okay? It should have been done a long time ago. Many years ago, 2021, 2022, I don't remember what year, somewhere around there, Ted Cruz actually introduced legislation in the Senate to make Antifa a terrorist organization. Sadly, it didn't go anywhere, okay? But now, President Trump, he's not playing around. He has designated tonight Antifa a terrorist organization. His words, ready? Oh, this is a long one. I am pleased to inform our many U.S. patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those that fund Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. However, it goes on a little bit more. There are other groups. We have some pretty radical groups out there, and they have gotten away with murder. And also, I've been speaking to the Attorney General about bringing RICO charges against some of the people that you have been reading about that have been putting up millions upon millions of dollars for agitation. These aren't protests. These are crimes, and that's what they're committing. When they're throwing bricks at cars or ICE and Border Patrol, they come in a beautiful new car. They're so proud, and it's Border Patrol, ICE, you know, it's got whatever it is, and they're throwing rocks at it. And after 50 yards, it looks like an old beat-up vehicle. It was just brand new. It was just bought for the purposes, and they don't have to take that anymore. Let it be known, we'll take responsibility. They don't have to take it anymore, and they don't want to take it. They were told by a past administration, it became almost a culture. If somebody threw a rock at you, you were supposed to do nothing. This is all Trump here. If somebody spits in your face, you're supposed to do nothing. And I say, when they spit, you hit. Do whatever you want. You do whatever the hell you want, Trump told reporters. Then he continued, I watch it. So sick, it made me. For 4 years, I had to sit home and watch people screaming at police officers and spitting in their faces. And they weren't able to do anything. They just had a grin on their face and had to bear it. They're standing up like a piece of steel, and they were women. In many cases, you can see they're professional agitators. I had one the other night. I had 4 the other night, all in one group. Total phonies. And they started to scream when I got into a restaurant. Oh, you know, something with Palestine. I said, well, I'm doing a great job for peace in the Middle East. I should get lots of awards for that, right? With the Abraham Accords and everything else I've done. But a woman just stood up and started screaming at me. And she got booed out of the place too. The people, a lot of people that were in the restaurant. I went there to show how safe it was. And I mean, a woman is just a mouthpiece. All she was. She was being paid. She was a paid agitator. And you have a lot of them. And I've asked Pam to look into that in terms of RICO, bringing RICO cases against them, criminal RICO cases, because they should be put in jail. And that's what they're going to have happen to them. And what they're doing to this country is subversive. That's President Trump in his New York way of speaking. Okay? Now, let's add to this. So what does this mean exactly? He's calling Antifa a terrorist organization. Well, we remember the beginning of this administration when he designated 11 different narco-terrorist organizations as, again, international terrorist organizations. He then had many more tools at his disposal, including blowing up their boats in the waters as they're trying to bring drugs into the United States. They are also doing amphibious training and land training exercises in Puerto Rico that a lot of people are saying is going to be eventually an invasion into Venezuela. We'll see what happens with that. But this is domestic. Domestic is a little bit different than international. However, President Trump now has more tools at his disposal. Let's discuss them. Okay? Here we go. Direct law enforcement investigations. The president can now direct the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate and prosecute domestic terrorism. The FBI's primary counterterrorism function is to prevent attacks by investigating and gathering intelligence on groups that engage in criminal activity, and here's the kicker, for ideological goals. Okay? Request coordination from federal agencies. The president can coordinate the national response to domestic threats across various agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the FBI. In 2021, the Biden administration released a national strategy for countering domestic terrorism to enhance these efforts. Yeah, but they were going after grandmas with Bibles in front of abortion clinics. They were going after parents at teachers' meetings and teachers' student council meetings and all that. They were calling them terrorists. They weren't terrorists, obviously. So, this is going to be used for people that are funding actual terrorism. This is going to be used for people that are throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers and bricks at police officers, and for people that all of a sudden out of nowhere, like that, drop off, gas masks and everything else like that guy did in the truck in Los Angeles. Who's funding that stuff? Well, guess what? By designating them a terrorist organization, now there are more tools at his disposal to go after the people that are funding the violence. And that is where the RICO statute comes in. Now, deploying the military in certain specific circumstances. The president can now use the Insurrection Act. The president can deploy U.S. armed forces domestically in response to an insurrection or other public disorder that local and state authorities cannot control. And lastly, the president can block or freeze or investigate or prosecute people and organizations, whether it be domestic or international, that are funding these violence and these violent protests. Executive Order 13224 gives the president authority to block the assets of individuals and entities that provide material, financial, and even weapon support to these terrorists and organizations. While this power is not tied to domestic terrorism and its designation, it could potentially be used to freeze the assets of these domestic individuals and organizations and groups if they were found to be materially supporting and been designated and funded by foreign terrorist organizations. So, if Antifa is getting their money from someone outside the United States, guess what? They're going to be taken down. So President Trump's not playing around anymore. By doing this designation, and again, I said last night, let's go DSA. Let's call the Democrat Socialists of America a terrorist organization. Let's call the Congressional Progressive Caucus a terrorist organization, or disband them because they are part of Antifa. Many members, Jamal Bowman, for instance, member of Antifa. And so you have the Democrat Party so close to terrorism, it's insane. The Democrat Party is a terrorist organization. Shit, I've been saying that since, 2019, 2018. I think it's the first time I probably said it. And of course, Right Wing Watch, called me a psychotic, violent extremist or whatever the hell they called me. And Southern Poverty Law Center called me an extremist. And I've been called a Nazi, even though I'm Jewish and all that crazy stuff. But this is the reality. A party that does these things, that kills people, that doesn't agree with them, that floods the country with criminals, that kills babies on the day that they're born, what else can they be described as other than a criminal terrorist organization? Simple as that. So, I wanted to cover that because it is important. Now, I'm looking forward to Antifa being completely just decimated and wiped out. And he should go and do the same thing to Black Lives Matter. Let's call it what it is. And, of course, we need to absolutely decimate all of these terrorist trans organizations that are online, who's funding them, where are they getting their money, who's at the top, who their leaders are, all of it. We've got to clear out the rat's nest of these radical leftists, and I hope and pray President Trump and his administration does exactly that. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.